and researched with Isaac Darlington.
Another episode of the Unresearched podcast. My name is Isaac Darlington Mutengu. Very excited to be here. I do have a guest with me. But first, did you know that you can enjoy your coffee once you choose Fine Cafe? Think about doing that today. Real coffee people will always tell the difference. So if you are a real coffee person, I recommend Fine Cafe, and you will be able to enjoy the rest of your day with a burst of energy. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Darlington. My name is Molocho Eric Eriasa, and I'm a teaching assistant at Makerere University Business School, Mbale Regional Campus. I currently support the marketing and management department as well.
Okay.
But I'm an accountant at the same time. So very many people keep asking me, how do I fall in different roles? Like,
we're going to come to that. He has not yet told you he's an activist. So those are the things that I didn't want to miss. So also give us a bit of that as well. And he's also an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
So basically, I'm an activist, a climate change activist.
Yes.
I know climate change has been so much on the verge of our region, mostly when we look at the Elgon region.
Yes.
So I dived into when we lost lives. You remember the floods that happened?
Yes. The flash floods.
Years ago.
Right here in Mbale.
Yes, please.
Yes.
And also, I've been an entrepreneur, just like as you've said. I've sold eggs before.
Okay.
And it helped me to facilitate my university tuition when I was still undergraduate studying.
So we had a brief discussion before coming on here behind the scenes, and you told me about how hard it was. It was a bit complicated anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where the egg story comes in. But I'm interested in knowing a couple of things. Number one, you have said you've mentioned a couple of things that you do.
Yes.
And I don't want to ask your age, but you don't seem so old either.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't seem so old. How does this all come about? And did you always see yourself as a lecturer, an accountant, an entrepreneur, and a climate activist all in one?
One thing I have to say, Darlington, before I can dive back,
yes.
I will say that I became my own parent at a very young age. I had to start fending for myself.
Yes.
Now it draws me back to the conversation I was having with you. I come from a polygamous family, I must say.
Yes.
Whereby, my late father had very many women.
Yep.
And then I'm a second last born. So by the moment when we were born, my parent was almost old, and then he had lost the job, he had retired. And then my mom was a refugee. So at the end of the day, she didn't have an education.
No.
So I really looked into very many different things. When I was even studying, my brother supported me, but later on, I had to come in for myself. Then how did I do that? I found so much inspiration, Darlington.
Yes.
In this world, we really have to find things that can make purpose for our souls or our lives. What is going to be of you tomorrow, right? Sometimes things can push us to the wall, but what is going to happen tomorrow at the end of the day, in case whatever happens or consequences, we are not supposed to be pushed to the wall.
We have to survive.
Definitely. So I have to say, when I will not go into bits about my education career, how I went. It has been challenging. Grew up with a stepmother. I cannot go into all that.
Yeah, polygamy is something that's quite common in Africa.
Yeah.
Becoming a little less common, but still common. Yeah. What team do you support?
I'm an Arsenal fan. I support Arsenal.
So, Manu people, I am a Manu person. Yesterday we had the games and things did not go as we expected. But of course, Arsenal people are still struggling. They've not won anything for the last couple of years, despite.
That is a consolation.
Yeah, but you're treated there very briefly. But back to the conversation. There is a vast. There is this well of experience and knowledge that now you have been able to acquire over the years.
Yes.
You are versed with marketing and with management.
Yes. And accounting
as well.
Yeah.
Was math a favorite subject of yours?
Yeah, math has been
I hated mathematics.
I really did mathematics up to my A level. I offered it at my A level.
Of course, as a person who is into accounts, you'd have to know that. But man, Isaac, I would love so much to have an advert for my business.
But money, akasente. Tony, it is not even that serious. Just as you plan for your rent, for your employees, you should also have a budget for your advertisement. Otherwise, how will your business get brand visibility?
The questions asked here are questions every business person asks. Consider making an advert today. I'm Isaac Darlington Mutengu from The Haven Inventives. We do media consultancy. We also do audiovisual adverts and a bunch of other things. You can reach out to us at haveninventives@gmail.com. Alternatively, reach us via our WhatsApp at +256 782 751 859. I'm an entrepreneur. You see, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, I have a small business called The Haven Inventives. We took all over Lango, we make adverts and stuff like that. I was not good at mathematics. Do you think it is important for any entrepreneur to be able to be good at mathematics, say primary?
Definitely.
Is that important?
Like mathematics, by the one thing I'll have to tell you, Darlington, for all the times that I'm currently doing my master's, I'll have to tell you that all stages in life, all these are small components, all other different subjects we do, they have an importance. Wherever we'll reach like at a certain stage, I will have to tell you that there is a need that you're going to find, even when you are an entrepreneur, right? You need to use the mathematics to know how much your supplier supplied you, how much stock do you have left, right? To know the reorder level and all those things, the dynamics.
But Eric, we are in a situation where we have software.
Yes, please.
We have software. I don't need to know this mathematics.
That's where we are going.
If I have my software, are you into IT?
Yeah, I'm into IT.
So there is software that people use these days to account, to compute.
Yes, please.
And I will talk about a company that does this a little bit later if I'm given opportunity to. But so there's that growth, which brings me to this conversation.
Yes.
Where do you see marketing and accounts for business? No, let's do accounts first. Where do you see accounts, handling of accounts in the next couple of years for many small businesses?
So one thing I'll have to first state right now, Darlington, we are into what we call a digital era. And I must tell you that AI is taking over. Now, the whole conversation goes
I've had that conversation
into the whole thing. So at the end of the day, if we do not stay up to our game, it's just like the way you say that you're a marketeer. What new thing have you brought on board? What is that enticing thing that you brought? It's equally the same thing. As an accountant, you have to know. Obviously, the AI is going to help you. That computer will put everything there. Excel will generate for you everything. But who is going to interpret? Because you're going to go to the board members. You'll have to explain to them.
AI can do that.
Are you sure?
Properly.
Because we have what we call standards. At the end of the day, there is what we call top level management decisions. Darlington, if you really do not have a background, it's going to become very hard for you. Even when you have it Googled.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's going to be hard for you because we have what we call decision making in accounting. So you have to make decisions, but at the end of the day, it is upon onto the figures. Now, it is upon us to evaluate and assess the figures that you're seeing. For example, if you compare 2 years, I can say 2023 and 2024, and we see what is the profitability margins within those 2 periods. Then at the end of the day, you will have to explain, tell the stakeholders. For example, you tell them, this year you've not gotten a profit, but they need to understand why. What have been the constraints? Did you not market well the product? Did you not take an extra management of your stock maybe? And also your datas? All these things, when we go to the accounting, they're very important. Yes, AI is going to do that for you, Darlington. But at the end of the day, you as an individual, you need this knowledge. You don't have to really rely to that. It's the same thing we say, what if it breaks down? That is also another question, because the machine can break down when you're in the middle of maybe a presentation.
You get another one. You get another machine.
Darlington, you can get another one, but it's a different thing.
This conversation slowly drifts into marketing.
Yes, please.
Marketing today has changed, Eric. I'll tell you for a fact, because I am a person who has done sales and marketing.
Yes.
And I am in marketing.
Darlington, can I tell you something?
Paint a picture for me now. Where do you see marketing in the next couple of years? And what changes do you think? How do you think those changes are going to impact small business owners?
Because one thing I will have to say, because you say we have Fine Cafe.
Yes.
So Fine Cafe, when you look at this, Darlington, you marketeer, what is that unique thing that you've seen about Fine Cafe? Which is going to define Fine Cafe?
Logo.
Exactly.
We start with the logo,
now,
the branding.
even the coloring is the same thing when I'm taken back to the foundations of marketing.
Yes.
That I need to understand and say, okay, what is my target market? Where am I leading? Okay, where am I going to sell the product? If it's young children, there is a certain color. There is color sensitivity and all that. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I see marketing in the coming years, really seeing like it is going to be so much concentrated onto what we call digital marketing. And we are already into it.
But we tweet about influencer.
Exactly.
The influencing and all of that.
Exactly.
That is where we have gotten to.
Exactly.
I know a couple of people who make money from TikTok, from YouTube, and a lot of these other channels just making the money and surviving.
Yes.
As a lecturer, what are some of the craziest moments you've had in class or just around the academic field?
Now the biggest challenge that I've had, Darlington, is basically most of the time when I go up front there, yes, I do deliver and I do it like with ethical, professionalism. But one thing I have noted is that most of my students, I am very free because I have this thing of what we call student-centered learning. I'm trying to create an approach whereby I'm friendly with my students. You remember the times when we used to be in school, then a mathematics teacher enters the class.
And then everybody just
would go silent. You understand?
Yes.
My approach is very different. We're in a digital era, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, even you might have your students, they have interest, and this is where we are identifying what we call the strength of these different students.
Yeah.
My challenge has been that most of these people have taken me as a young person because they really look at me and they feel like,
you fit in, yeah.
And I feel free with it.
Yes.
I am like, okay, it's fine. My major role here is not to look at that, but to look at how am I imparting knowledge onto these students. So that challenge has not been so much onto me. I've really not found it like as a big challenge.
But
maybe in the beginning.
But you remember, because that is just one of those crazy experiences that you had as a lecturer.
Yes.
Then we're going to come back into that, but very briefly, what inspired you to become an activist? You already mentioned the flash floods.
Yes.
But then there's something you're doing as is it Go Green?
It's a Green Eco Champion Initiative. I'm
what
a
is that?
co-founder. It's an organization which is youth-led, and it's trying to address what we call climate change, mitigation and adaptation, and also climate sensitization. We do what we call sensitization.
Okay.
We've been to schools, secondary schools. We deal with young people, trying to show them what nature really has for us. Because this nature, they are going to have children, the generations are coming up. What if we lose it? Where are we going to live? So basically, our organization is basically looking at how best can we conserve our environment in this hostile generation we are living in. Because everything, like when we see there is a lot of green gas emission, at the end of the day, you see they are trying to advocate people not to, burn trees or cut down trees and make fire like, charcoal at the end of the day. But now, what is the most importance? Like, for us to have this conversation, when we talk about climate change, I really have so much passion. Basically, when it comes to, I've moved to different countries and I've seen what other countries are doing vis-a-vis what we are really having here.
You've been to Rwanda, you mentioned
yes,
Rwanda.
I've been to Rwanda, I've been to Kenya,
I've
been to Ethiopia, I've been to Tanzania.
Funny you should mention Ethiopia. I was in the gym today and I met someone. He was done working out and he was mentioning to me how life is a bit tough in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
He's here as a refugee. Of course, I'll not mention him, but he's here as a refugee and his wife is working elsewhere. And
is it Somalia or Ethiopia?
Ethiopia.
Oh, okay.
Ethiopia. Because we spoke about Ethiopia, we spoke about Eritrea, we spoke about just a bunch of things. But anyway, yes, you were saying. I just passed there just to say that the grass is never as green on the other side, because we have a couple of people who sometimes look at refugees here and think, oh man, these guys are lucky. And so, but he was just sharing with me how sometimes they go through a bunch of challenges,
Yeah.
So yes, climate is important.
Yes.
I am one of those people who says yes, we should do everything we can to preserve our climate for the future generation.
Definitely.
They need to find.
Definitely. I was just telling you something. When we talk about, for example, Darlington, you have bought maybe something in a cavera, and then you dump it out, maybe in a drainage channel. you know, it contributes highly to the floods. Did you know that? Now,
That's why I don't litter. If I am seated in a car, I will not at any one point throw something out through the window. I don't believe in throwing caveras, polythene bags on the street or what. No.
Did you know that what caused the floods equally, it was a contribution of the plastic disposals? Did you know that? Because they went on and clogged in there. Like, you do not know how much impact they caused. Even when you look at our streets in Mbale, you realize that at the end of the day, those trenches, the ones which have been constructed recently,
in our capital city, Kampala, it is that
capital city. You cannot imagine
that
what
horrendous.
happens when it rains on Ginger Road. You've seen all those incidences.
Yes.
But what is our role here? What is our role here as young people? You know, one thing, I went to a conference. It was a pre-COP conference, which was they only had 5 young people. You cannot imagine, Darlington. Only 5 out of a delegation of 120.
5 young people from where?
From the whole of Uganda. I was among them. It was pre-COP 27. You cannot imagine. You don't know how much advocacy we had, and it was on climate change. We are saying, okay, the mature people who are already there, they are not mentoring the young people, and then they're not giving them spaces. Darlington, I stood up and I said, young people are not an agent of, distraction. Young people are here to support the cause and changing the generations.
Back in primary, we used to saying, we are the future of tomorrow. But Nayenga, things have changed. Things have changed. You said position. Explain. I want to make sure it is not a political statement.
The position?
Yes.
Oh, the one of... No, it's
position
not.
In terms of...
No, it was Uganda's position paper, basically on climate change. It just looks at how are we standing as a country in honoring what we call the United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change.
Put together like everything you just said, Tulibubi. Uganda,
when it comes to climate change, we are trying to adopt. I have to say, only that even also our mindset, Darlington.
We have a long way to go.
We've been in different countries. You can see the mindset. It's the same thing when I talk about climate. I've been to Kigali. The mindset in Kigali, even getting a sweet. You know, when you remove a sweet, you can never see someone littering it. But here, imagine even I was in a taxi from the airport the other day. Like, at the end of the day, you see someone dropping a Kavera. I was like, what is this? After using, then a bottle just outside the can. Why don't you leave it and then you go and dump it, collect it?
I have a friend of mine. He's called Kenny. Travel with Kenny. He has a company called Travel with Kenny. And he was sharing with me some time back while we're traveling. And he was explaining to me how it's actually against the tourism something to... Well, for example, using a tourist car, you're driving and then you throw something through the... I think government has tried to put in place certain things to make sure that, okay, Uganda is preserved. However, enforcing is always the issue. Implementation is always the issue.
By the way, did you know that in the region, we have the best policies?
We have the best policies.
Exactly. But even when you look at the polythene bag policy, it was adopted by even all East African countries.
After Uganda or before Uganda?
Even before after Uganda becoming an independent country. But it was even like, I think 5 years ago.
Okay.
So Kenya adopted to it, then Rwanda adopted to it. But I think in the region, when we look at Tanzania and Rwanda, they have really honored this. You cannot enter even when you're passing at the border. Darlington, you've been to Rwanda before?
No.
When you're entering the border, you cannot enter with the polythene. They have a no interest rate policy to polythene. I even traveled with white people towards the border. When we reached Gatuna, they made these people remove their caveras. And that's what I was like, oh, wow.
Very good. I think we still have a problem when it comes to recycling as Uganda. We don't have the plastic bottles that you find all trash is mixed together. What decomposes with what doesn't decompose. I think it is a very huge issue. And for the people that are in positions to actually make these changes, please consider making the changes as soon as possible. So, real quick, business. What would you tell a person that wants to offer business? How would you How would you advise a person that wants to do business?
To do business.
Yes,
Okay.
to start up business.
I've done business.
Yeah.
I have to say, Darlington, that even when it wasn't on a bigger scale, I must say that I interacted with very many people, clients. I have to say there is a lot of patience required in starting up a business and then never giving up. Failure in business, that is even the thing that I keep on telling my entrepreneurship students, because I always teach third year business administration students.
Okay, that's
Recently, I took them for a field study.
Okay.
For them to appreciate, to understand what happens in organizations.
Yeah.
So the founder talked about something and said, we have failed. Sometimes you fail, but this is not the end of the road.
Okay.
Now, what does this mean? When you fail, let it become a learning lesson for you. At the end of the day, maybe you have 2 suppliers or 1 supplier. I've sold eggs before, and then I used to have 1 supplier. Darlington, you cannot imagine what happened when the supplier never turned up. And I had customers.
Yes.
Customers are very sensitive.
Yeah.
You might be very good, but availability of the product, if it is not there, trust me, it's a gone deal. Like, you're going to lose those clients at the end of the day. So one thing I will tell someone who is going to venture into business,
Yeah.
we always have the paper, the theoretical part. The practical can become a little bit different from the theoretical.
Yeah.
I have to say that you require to be very open. Like, you need to be transparent. Darlington, we've dealt with people who are saying that they are selling a product. But, imagine, for example, when you say you're selling milk, you add in water. Is that ethical? You know it very well that you're charging someone maybe 1,000 shillings, right? You're an entrepreneur. But what is the product you're giving to this person, the consumer?
Very
Are you
important.
minding about them?
Very, very important.
Honesty is very important in business at the end of the day.
Ethical.
Being ethical, I really would consider it as a number 1 priority as any person who is doing business or starting business. Another thing that I really would note, because when dealing with people, the people you're working with, Darlington, at the end of the day, you have employees. Human resource is one of the resources that are considered highest, apart from the financing department, currently in organizations and SMEs. I have to say that you have to treat it with the utmost urgency. Because remember, if one person who has been doing well, maybe for example, Darlington, you're working with maybe Fine Cafe, and then probably your boss or manager does not treat you well, are you going to sell this product?
That
But
becomes
if
very,
you're
very, very
motivated,
hard. Yes.
when you're motivated, it's very easy for you. You will sell it with a smile. You will sell it with a honest truth, and then you'll be like, this is a part of me. Make the people you work with to be a part of the business. Trust me, before you know it, all those businesses that you've seen, managing personnel is very important. Also, I have to note this: financial discipline. I did accounting, I did audit. Most of the time, you would go to organizations, small businesses. Darlington, we have a very poor saving culture in our country. I have made
But of
100.
course, now how are you going to save when most of the money is hand to mouth? I for one have had that challenge. You are getting money, but it is budgeted for to the dot. How?
To the dot.
You've got your 50,000 Ugandan shillings. Or maybe your $100, whatever it is, and then you're thinking about rent. You're thinking about electricity. You're thinking about water. It's really hectic, and you see how our wages are in Uganda. They're not that good. If you're earning salary,
Yes.
If you're a business person, you might be able to scratch your head here and there and survive. But then, if you're a person who is entirely depending on salary,
It's a different story.
forget about it. But yes, with Eric here, we'll have a lot more conversations. But lastly, a word to a person who wants to pursue a course at Makerere University Business School.
I have to say that I've been at Makerere University Business School
Yes.
for my diploma. I did my bachelor's at the same institute. I paid for myself, both diploma and bachelor's. And I must say, and currently on my master's, I will have to say that it's an environment which gives a full package when we come to business and management in the region, because Makerere University Business School is ranked as the best university in Central and East Africa. You can check the statistics. So Mbale Regional Campus is really it's a very good place to be at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, like even when I was studying, remember I told you I was paying for myself.
Yes,
I was never given hard time. I would pay tuition, Look for tuition, deposit, you know, until you complete by the moment when you're doing your final exams. Equally, it's the same thing we are doing up to now. So Mbaere Regional Campus is very open, and I would say any person out there who is willing probably to come around would really not regret, because we give a full package. And basically, I will be one of the facilitators, you know. Though I'm a young person, but I would love to have that conversation.
Not the age, but the skill. My name is Isaac Darlington. This is the Unresearched Podcast. And of course, grab yourself some fine cafe, even as you enjoy the rest of your day or night. God bless.
Thank you.